So where we concluded on the last video is we were just setting up to make the fade in and out. So the key thing here, you just click somewhere in the music so that in the properties it shows the sound panel. Then you click on this icon and it brings you in. And we had zoomed out a little bit so we could see like the first 5 seconds of the song. If you're not on seconds, if you're on frames, and you just click these options here back and forth. And so what you want to happen is this volume, you want it to start out very low and then go up. That's your fade in. There are natural, or not natural, but custom fade in, fade outs, but I suggest you don't use those because most of them are too quick. So what you need, I guess I should explain too that one of these is the left channel and one of them is the right channel for stereo. And what you need is another point where you're going to fade in to. And to get one of those, you just simply click over here. And I like to try about 3 seconds. If that's too much of a fade in, not a problem. And you can see when you click on the one channel and you have stereo, it automatically gives you the same thing on the other channel. So this represents about a little over 3 seconds into the song. So now that we have this second block that we got just by clicking right there, we go to the beginning and we drag that down to 0. And then I'll do the same thing on the other channel. And there's a little play button in here so you can hear what that's going to sound like. So you can hear that you got your fade in, and if that was too much of a fade in, then all you'd have to do is change this. That would give you a very quick fade in, which usually a little bit longer is better. And then you can just simply mouse over here, scroll over to the end. You could use this to do the same thing. And at the end, you want to fade out. And you're going to do that basically the same way. We're going to come over here, and about 3 or 4 seconds from the end, we are going to click. And then at the very end, we're going to click again. And then we're going to drag at the very end to fade down, fade out. Did that on one channel, just do the same on the other channel. And then you just click OK, and that'll make your fade in and fade out stick. And now you can just do a command return, listen to the whole 30 seconds of the song, see if the fade in and the fade out is right. And you can always go back in, same way, just click here, and scroll through, look at your fade in, fade out, make any adjustments that you need to make. Now, if you had 2 songs that you wanted to work with, and you wanted one to fade out while the other one fades in, then all you have to do is just make another layer for the next song. So click here, got another layer. Just need to get down to the end of this song here. So it ends here. We already have the fade out, so about right here, and you can always move it later. I'll click here, I'll do an F7, I'll bring in my next song, which happens to be the same one in my case, but this could be a totally different song. And this works really good where you have like one mood at the beginning of your animation, and then it changes. So you can go from a very like melodic or classical music to like heavy metal by doing this technique. So I'm going to drag this out of the library onto the desktop, and then you'll see it show up here. And then you can do the same thing like we did before, go out a little ways and do an F5. You can go out all the way so you can see the whole thing if you want. But right now, all we're concerned about is just this overlapping section. You know, in the other song that in my case was 30 seconds long, we started fading out about 3 seconds early. So we should back this one up and just click on this first keyframe here, about the same distance, 3 seconds. Oop, I didn't grab it. I guess I need to grab that frame. You know what actually might be easier here is let me just Command Z, and I'll just click right here and I'll do a Shift F5 to get that thing to back up. So we want to back it up to 27. Just replace the mouse here, Shift F5. Okay, and then now I can go into here. So again, I'm clicking in the sound wave that I want to change. Going into Properties. I'm going to click on this little icon. I want to get to the beginning of the song. Zoom out a little bit here so I can see the first few seconds. Give myself a frame there. Drag this one down. Do the same to this channel. Click OK. Place the playhead here and we'll see how that sounds. Just press the play button in here. So that was okay. I mean, it's the same song, so it's a little bit hard to tell, but actually that's a good thing if it is hard to tell. But the idea is that one comes down as the other one comes back in, and you just simply mess with both the inside of Properties. You edit where the fade in and the fade out stops, and then you can also change down here where this song comes in by either doing a Shift F5 to move it backwards in time or an F5 to move it forward in time. And of course, if the song starts out naturally, there's no need to do a fade in. We just don't want an abrupt start to a song or an abrupt end to a song. If the song concludes where you need it to, you don't need a fade out. If you have more than one song, as we just looked at, you can fade number 1 out as number 2 comes in, and it just requires a lot of experimenting to get it to sound right. And really the only way to know that it sounds right is to actually do the command return and listen to it from the Swift file. And remember, if you're trying to listen to your fade out and it's 30 minutes or 30 seconds or 1 minute into the song, that can get kind of old, right? So remember the tricks that you learned earlier where you could place a button in there that jumps ahead to say 25 seconds into your animation, and then you can hear it fade out. Okay, so that concludes the sound part, but since this video is placed in the topic for the Storyboard Plus, we may as well talk about importing the frames from your storyboard. And I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do this. There is really no sense in getting full quality images for this. If you really want to, you could go back and export all 20 frames again, following the steps that I did previously, except for the part where we cut them down by 40%. So let me just show you probably the most monotonous way to do this would be to bring in each file and then resize it. And actually, even that is not that monotonous with this program. So what I did was I just created a new layer, clicking the button here, and I'll just call this frames. And I'm going to go to the very first frame, and I'm going to do a file import. Now, I would watch this before you do, because I'm going to show you what might be an easier way for you to do this, but I'll show you a couple different ways. So we're going to go import. We're not going to choose library. We're going to actually import to the stage, and then we're going to go out, find our files. So here are all my files, and here's one trick. Click on just the first one and the first one only. This is why you give them a sequential number. You go to Open, and the program is smart enough to realize that there are files after that file with a sequential numbering system, and it just brought every single one in. So that is very handy. Now you can tell that they're too small because they're 40% of the size, but here is one super easy way to do this. We turn on Edit Multiple Frames by clicking this button right here, and then we just make sure that we cover the entire span of all our little storyboard frames that came in here. And then we'll take the free transform tool, and Now, even though it only looks like we have frame number 20 selected, we actually have them all selected. Well, maybe not. Let me Command Z that, and let me just draw a marquee around all of them just to make sure. Okay, now when I click, they should all move together. Okay, they did. All right, and then we're going to click here, hold down the Shift key, and that's a very important step. In fact, even before that, I'm going to do Command minus one time, just so I can see the entire storyboard. Going up here, I'm holding down the Shift key, and that's going to be a little bit difficult because it's going from the outside. Let's see what happens. Oh, okay, I can hold down the Option key, and that'll make that work. Okay, so what happened is when I held down the Option key, the default in this program is to scale from the center out. The other way is to hold down the Option key, and it will scale in the direction that you're dragging. And then you just look real close, make sure you're getting to the right size of the artboard. And actually, that worked out so easy that I don't even have to show you the other trick, because this actually makes more sense. So now I hit return. Just caught myself in a mistake. I called this the artboard. It's actually called the stage. Now we go back to the beginning here. Well, let's turn off multiple layers at multiple frames. Let's go back to the beginning of this. I'll just click this guy to get back to the beginning. Now, what we do is we just put in the space F5s in between each one of these frames. So I'll click on the first frame, and how long do I want that to stay there? Well, we're going to just keep experimenting, but let's hit F5 a couple times to space that out. And let me make these a little bit more visible. So if I go over to this icon, drag that out. Now the frames are a little bit bigger in size. So this one, give the viewer a chance to see it. That maybe just F5 one time, because there's some action happening there. Maybe just one time there. And then, so in other words, sometimes a frame stays there for a little bit, and sometimes when there's actions, things go faster. So one frame may stay there for a second, where the other one only stays there for a half a second. But the idea is that you space these frames out to where they would occur in real time. So you want to listen to the music, you want to picture the animation in your head, but then what you have by the time you're finished is a storyboard set to sound, so that if we preview it, we see something like and of course, where my numbers started coming in would be continuations of your frames. And then the thing to remember that I really like about doing this is that when you go to animate and you say, okay, well, this comes up, this happens here, then this happens, you know exactly where you're animating to and from. You already have the keyframes already set. And at this point, you would just watch it a few seconds, realize what things are going by too fast, which are going by too slow, move things around. If you need to, make more frames to help tell the story better. Show it to some people in your family and friends and see if they get it right now with just these frames coming up periodically in this preview. Don't forget to adjust the fade in and fade outs of your sounds and experiment with the sound a lot to get, if you listen to it and you're like, oh, I should have picked a better section of the song, you've got plenty of time to do that. And you keep doing that as you're working on the final animation. But for right now, the job is just to get this done, and along with the hardest part that you imagine, and that will be your Storyboard Plus project.